Hello, everybody. It is good to see you. Let's get this started with the right type of music. Ooh, we got dance pop. Okay, let's kill that one. Not digging it. This is the one I like. This is the rock. All right. It's good to see everybody. Thank you for joining me today. This is this is your host, Mark Dolfini, here on Strategic Boardroom. It's really good to see you. Today we're going to be talking about some goals. How did you wind up? How did you land at the end of 2025? This is really important. And we're going to talk about what were your 2025 goals, what kind of goals you have as you head into 2026. And of course, we're going to get into a little bit around creating and having a personal vision. So if you have not done any of this, you're going to want to stick around and see how to do this, because realistically, these goals just aren't going to set themselves. So you really want to spend the time doing that. Thanks to my folks over at StreamYard who put that fancy music up there for me, because I don't know how you hunt around for music that YouTube doesn't get offended by. It seems like everything's a copyright violation. Anyway, it's good to see you all. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you are joining me, let me know where you're from. I see some people coming in. That's good to see you guys. Let me know what you're talking about, or where you're from, and what kind of business that you're in. If you've got a business, or maybe you just have a business idea, I'd love to hear from that for you. Also, you may be seeing this right up here. You see that there and on the screen. I know if you're on your phone, you can't see it, but if you are on full screen, you can see this. And that is my invitation to you to join me in my community, where we talk about all this stuff here, all of this stuff. And you don't have to pay anything. You just want to be in the community. If you want some more support, it's a few dollar investment. Doesn't cost very much, but it really can take your learning and education to the next level. And it's specific to you as an entrepreneur and business owner. We talk a lot of different things around the 4 core functions of business, around lead generation, around sales, around operations, and around accounting, and specifically around strategy that you can employ. It's not just learning for the sake of learning. It's learning for the sake of implementation. It's learning for the sake of transformation. So if you're interested in transforming yourself, especially as you head into 2026, and making the last half of this decade something truly special for you, then by all means join. And here's the interesting thing: if you join and if give it 90 days, and if you decide that by that 90th day that it wasn't worth your investment, I will give you all 3 months of your money back. So that is a commitment I'm making to you, because I really want you to change things. I really want you to transform yourself. And that puts the onus back on me to make sure that you're getting the value. It's not just a money grab, that you're actually changing things in your life. For me, it's not about the money. I don't make a lot of money. It's just over $100 a month. And I'm not going to make a ton of money on that. I get a lot more money from my real estate investments. And that's what enables me to do this. So I just want to share that with you. And my other businesses that pay me, pay me enough so I can do this and not be interrupted every day, because I've got systems and processes in place that handle all that stuff. So that is where I'm at. So let's get into this specifically around your 2026 goals. And in order to start thinking about your 2026 goals, one of the things I talk about is creating and crafting a personal vision. Now, one of the things I look back at and I start to think about, before you start thinking about your 2026 goals, you start thinking about where you landed in 2025. What goals did you hit in 2025? That's kind of important, especially when you're thinking, well, what goals did I reach in 2025? Well, what goals did you have for 2025? And the interesting thing was, one of the goals that I had as I went into 2025, ended 2024, was going into 2025, was to publish The Time Wealthy Advantage. And I had been messing around with that silly book for so long, and I'd been writing it a little bit and creating and thinking about my goals in 2025 as I was heading out and leaving 2024, heading into 2025. Well, one of my goals was to write this book and get it published. And you know what? I actually got it done. And it was later than I expected, later than I wanted. If you're joining me, say hello and let me know where you're from. it took me a little bit longer than I wanted to, but I was like, okay, well, not only did I publish this, but I published 4 additional supplemental guides in addition to this. And the reason for those guides, that I published those guides, because I had written so much that this was already a 300-page book. I mean, it's not a gimme, it's not a giveaway. Like, it's a good solid book. And this is what other people are telling me. So this was part of what I wanted to do in 2025, is get this written, get it written, get it published, and get it out there. In addition to publishing it, I also wanted to do an Audible and voice the Audible on my own. Now, I had never done that, and I've done a fair amount of my own microphone, voiceover work and things like that, but I'd never really ever given it any consideration about how to record my own voice in Audible, which was a lot of work. I was shocked at how difficult that actually was, and how different you sound from morning to afternoon to evening, even though it's still my voice. And tired Mark sounds significantly different than rested Mark. Mark at 2 a.m. sounds very different than Mark at 2 p.m. And you can tell on the recordings. It sounded different if it rained outside. If it was raining, it sounded different. And you know why? Because sound travels differently when it's raining. And all of a sudden, I'm thinking, why in the world is the traffic noise so loud in my headphones today? And I'm like, oh, it's because it rained. It's wet out. I was like, holy crap, the humidity makes a difference. All this stuff, I had no idea. I didn't know any of that stuff. So the learning curve on that was really, really high. But it was really important to me that people heard from me in the Audible. So when I read the book and I went through all of it, and it was also a nice way, like if you are considering doing this and you're actually trying to write a book on a budget, it's actually a really good way to edit a book, by the way. But I read it, and I did catch a couple of things which I was able to change in the last running of the book, because you can change it on Audible. But that was the whole thing. This is all the stuff that I got accomplished in 2025, because I went into 2025 with some specific goals. Did I actually have goals to write and publish 5 books in 2025? I did not. It was only looking to do this one. But because I had so much extra content, because I'd been working on that stuff for so long, I had roughly 40 or 50 different pages of very specific topics. I had one around strategic one sheets that I really wanted to include in the book, but there just wasn't room for it. The book was already 300 pages, and it's a good book. It's a good place to stop. I had plenty of other things I wanted to say about lead generation. So I created a whole lead generation guide. It's about 40 pages. I created so the strategic one sheets was about 36 pages. The lead generation guide is about 40 pages. I also have one on sales, which is about 40 pages. And I have another one on accounting. It's an accounting guide. And I think that's right at 36 pages as well. So my point is, by the way, fun fact, books have to be in a multiple of 4. The pages have to be a multiple of 4, just the way it lands inside of a book. So this is the interesting thing, is when I wrote all these different guides, I didn't set out the year thinking I was going to publish 5 books in 1 year. And, those guides were all from this because it was a spillover. But the reason I'm showing you this, because we're going to be talking about the roadmap that's in this book. It starts on chapter 6 on page 55. So for those of you who have the book and you want to follow along, this is what we're going to be covering today, going through the book a little bit. And it's in chapter 6, page 55, about the roadmap, a personal vision roadmap that's going to walk you through how to create a personal vision roadmap for what you want your life to look like. And because I was really specific around what I wanted my roadmap to look like in 2025, that is how I got this book published. So this is not just some fantasy stuff that doesn't actually work. Like, this is stuff that when I went into 2024, from 2023 into 2024, I had been talking about writing a book, right? And I wasn't really sure what I was going to call it, but I wanted something around the time wealthy theme, because I had already written a book called The Time Wealthy Investor, which was a book specifically for mom and pop landlords and mom and pop property managers who were just completely overwhelmed with their businesses. They were completely just exhausted, getting worked over by their residents all the time, and it was a real struggle for them to it was a real struggle for those folks to be not time weary, right? Not being controlled, not being run by their businesses. So that was the whole premise of the Time Wealthy Investor. Then I wrote The Judge. Then I did a complete rewrite, not a complete rewrite. That's not fair. I changed quite a bit of the book when I republished the Time Wealthy Investor 2.0, because there were certain things in there that I wanted to just change and alter just based on some feedback that I have. It was basically making a good book better. So I did. And when I relaunched the Time Wealthy Investor 2.0, that was a really good rewrite. I was really glad that I did it, and and allowed it to be a much better book. So so that was my third book, and that I had done back in 2019. I hadn't written a book in it's almost 6 years. I hadn't even really thought about writing anything again. So when I came up with the Time Wealthy Advantage, and I really did this all very differently, even down to the cover design. Okay, now if you see the stripe across the front there, that stripe across the front is actually, it says do not sell, or not for resale. It says not for resale. And this is because this is the author's proof. They call this a proof copy. And that way you can go through it and you can see, like, if you flip through the pages, I have some red marks in there because I needed to change certain things because of formatting and just different errors and stuff like that. That's just the nature of it. That's why you get an author's proof, so you can see how the words land on the page, and you can flip it, you can actually hold it. And it's a really nice thing. Really, really suggest it. And because I published through Amazon KDP, Kindle Direct Publishing, you have the ability to do that. You can buy these author's copies before you've even published it, which is really, really nice. So the interesting thing about all this is this was a culmination of my vision, but I really wasn't even sure what I was going to write about. And I'd been talking about this Viper methodology, which is an expansion of the VIP method that I wrote about in the Time Wealthy Investor and the Time Wealthy Investor 2.0. So this is now, and again, that's expanded to the Viper framework, the Viper methodology, and this is really specifically for business owners who are just struggling with their businesses and their lives and all these things that they're just struggling with, and they're just overwhelmed with the day-to-day operations, and just spend their entire existence from day to day living the same series of Wednesdays over and over again, because they're just spend their whole day not being strategic and just whacking the closest alligator to the boat. For me, having a personal vision and creating a personal vision has allowed me to be much more strategic in the things that I get done. It allows me to say no to the things that are going to take me away from my personal vision, that are going to take me away from my business vision. But really, this is a great time of year for me to really stop and think about the personal vision component, because that personal vision component, really everything drives around that personal vision, about how much time I spend with my bride, how much time I spend with my sons and my daughter. These are all things that are really important and really critical. So, we're going to get back to this in just a second when we talk about personal vision. So I'm going to put this down over here. I've got too many things on my desk. I can't stand a cluttered desk. And right now my desk is very cluttered. And it's just because I've got different things for you guys just to demonstrate. But one of the things that I do, and I've been doing this for years, by the way, but this is an achievement journal that I started keeping several years ago, and it just lists the various goals and things that I have hit since 2019. And I'm not super dogmatic about it. Like, I'm not like, oh, I have to write things in there, but different things that I have in here from 2024, all the different books that I read. I read, let's see here, 41 books in 2024. And I have all those there. I have all the books that I have listened to during that period of time. I'm not a big Audible person, by the way. But I've written all that stuff. This is all the achievements that I have that I got in 2024. And I did the same thing in 2025. In fact, I started this back in 2019. Probably one of the best things I've ever done for myself, because I can look back. And let me ask you, what did you do in 2019? What did you accomplish in 2013? What did you accomplish this year? And the more that you get removed from the years and as time goes by, yeah, you might remember certain things about certain things that you actually got done. But one of the things that I noticed that wasn't in here is me starting back at school. I need to put that in there because, having this in here and listing that out, again, when you start thinking about your 2026 goals, right, it's really, you need to think about that in the context of your 2025 goals. What did you get done in 2025? What did you accomplish in 2025? And this is why I started keeping an accomplishment journal. The accomplishment journal, honestly, was probably one of the best gifts I've ever given to myself. It was, I actually, I got the concept from a guy, a friend of mine named Dave. And I heard him start talking about the achievement journal, that he was doing achievement or accomplishment journal. And I thought, man, that was such a really good idea, because for him, he can look back and very tangibly looking back at his year. And I can look back at the last several years and really look at the things that I have accomplished. Like, one of the things that I never thought in my life that I would ever do was deliver a sermon. And I can't say I'm overly religious, but my faith is, I'm a Christian. My faith is based in Christ. And our pastor passed away last year. And we had a lot of people pinch hitting from the stage, from the pulpit. And I never really considered myself, I'm an early walk in my Christianity. I feel like my Christianity is very, still very new. And having been baptized in Christ in 2023, I thought that was important to learn as much as I could about the Bible. And I actually read through the Bible in 2020. In 2020, I'm sorry, we baptized in Christ at the end of 2022. That was right at kind of the end of the year that year. And we got, no, I'm sorry, that's wrong. It was baptized at the end of 2021 because it was right at the end of COVID. That's why I remember that. Like, that was the year kind of COVID, we were coming out of it fully, and we were all back at, church and everything. It wasn't illegal to go to church anymore, as crazy as that was. But then we got baptized in Christ at the end of 2021, and I read the Bible that whole year. So I read it from front to back just because I wanted to read the whole thing. Never read the whole Bible. It was very, very interesting, by the way. And so many stories, by the way, that were in the Bible that I did not realize were biblical stories, right? Like David and Goliath. Did not know that. I know you're like, really? How did you not know that? I just didn't know that, right? And Sodom and Gomorrah, did not know those two cities were biblical cities. I did not know that. Lots of different things, lots of different stories like that. So anyway, as I was going through that whole journey, they had an opportunity for me just to get on and do like a very short 20-minute one, because they were doing like an annual thing. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. Well, I'm telling you, and I speak from stage a lot. I've been on many, many stages in person with hundreds. Probably the largest audience I think was 500 or 600. And I don't usually get nervous. I mean, I get anxious. Like I'm looking forward to getting on stage and speaking to people, but I don't get super nervous. I think anxious is probably a better word, just because that means that I'm going to put effort into it. It means it matters to me. If I'm not nervous, if I'm too calm, I'm almost going to fall flat, and that's not a good thing. So I will tell you what, though, delivering a sermon was really hard. Like, that was a lot tougher than I thought. And I've been down that road quite a bit. So it was just really interesting. And that for me was a big moment. And I was really excited about that. And that's something that I actually did this year. So it was just really funny that, all these different things, these different achievements that I had are really cool, because especially for business owners who often compete with a lot of other people, and they're often competing with themselves, they often confuse achievement for fulfillment. And if they're not keeping track of their achievements, it's easy for them to always keep looking at the next achievement. And having an achievement journal is probably one of the best gifts that I've given to myself. So for those of you who are who are interested, in creating goals, if nothing else, I would encourage you to keep an achievement journal, and that will really help you as you head into the next year. So in order to set 2026 goals, I would really encourage you just to kind of maybe take a step back and look where you are. That way it can really help dictate where you want to go. Did you accomplish things in 2025? And I accomplished a lot of things. I've read another, let's see, how many books do I have this year so far? So I've read 41 books so far this year. So by the end of the year, it'll probably be 42. So I'll be a little bit better than last year by one book, right? But I read about a book every 10 days. And keep in mind, that's reading 41 books while having written and published 5 separate books, right? And it's also starting going back to school. I had, like I mentioned, I don't have that in the book here, but going back to school to pursue my PhD in organizational psychology, that's a big thing for me. Now, granted, I might be on the 6-year plan to get that done. So by the time I'm almost 60, I'll probably have this thing, under wraps. But realistically, for me, it's not about the PhD. It's about the journey. It's about the education. It's about the knowledge that I'm picking up already that already I can apply to my work with business owners and specifically solopreneurs and micro business owners, those business owners that have less than 20 employees. If you've got more than 20, I have a few clients that have more than 20 employees and I still can help them. But really the folks that I really like working with are those solopreneurs and those micro business owners that have struggles. Like that's what I really, really like working with. And because I read so much, right? Again, this is my achievement journal for 2025. Really want to encourage you that if you have not thought and considered about what your 2025 goals are, start keeping an achievement journal and maybe start thinking about what you accomplished in 2025. So when you start and thinking about your goals for 2026, now you've got some context. Now you've got some context in saying, yeah, these were some pretty awesome things that I accomplished in 2025. And this is what I want to do as I head into 2026. All right. So for those of you, I'm just going to go ahead. If you are interested, you can head over to the community that I have. You can always post questions in there. I will always answer everybody's question. But again, if you are really interested in the deeper dive stuff and not just the free stuff, and really encourage you to make the commitment to your education and your learning and make it very strategic, very specific to your business rather than just generic YouTube videos that you hop on and and nothing changes for you because nothing changes. And you're continually seeking information, not transformation. Maybe an investment like that might make sense for you. So anyway, not pressing you to make a decision, but whether it's me or someone else, you really need to make a choice and really have someone help you in that transformation, not just in information. So let's start talking about this in terms of your 2026 goals, and also in the context of your in the context of your personal vision. So one of the things I want to do, again, this is the book I'm going to pull out, The Time Wealthy Advantage, and this is in chapter 6. It starts on page 55. But this is where I recommend that you go through the personal vision roadmap. And the roadmap is available for those of you who buy the book. There's a link where you can actually download the roadmap that's in here, and you can work on that like a worksheet, which is pretty cool because now you can print it off and keep it with you, especially for those of you who are a little bit more, kinesthetic, where you really like to feel the paper, which is again why I keep an achievement journal that's written in ink, because I'm telling you, like whenever I hit an accomplishment, I got through my first quarter in my PhD program. I need to put that in there. I'm halfway through. I'm in week 5 right now of the second quarter, and I'm almost halfway through, which is pretty cool. I'm pretty excited about that. But the way that I have the personal vision roadmap broken down is into 3 different sections, and it's mind, body, and soul, mind, body, and spirit. So the thing that I really like about this breakdown is, sorry, spam caller. So breaking it down this way into mind, body, and soul is really important because our lives are complex. Our lives are multifaceted. And some of you are probably out of balance. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. I don't mind being out of balance sometimes. Sometimes I'm out of balance with my family. And because I'm out of balance with my family, I need to rebalance. I need to reallocate. And this is really important. This is something I'm going to forget her name, but man, she was an awesome presenter at the leadership conference, the leadership summit that was held by John Maxwell and his folks. But it was the woman who was the CEO of TIAA Craft. I wish I could remember. You know what? Let me look that up because she is phenomenal. She is like literally like my spirit animal. I could not believe how good. So TIAA Craft CEO. That's it. Tashonda Duckett. Yep. She was truly amazing. I was so blown away by her. I just want to be her friend. What a great gal and unbelievably smart. And actually I actually have a client who worked under her and they called her T Duckett is what they called her, T Duckett. And she was just a phenomenal. Everybody liked her, and she was got a really great, not just presence and aura, but just a very authentic leadership style. You can just tell who she was on stage is how she is in real life. There was no faking it, right? And it was really interesting that what she talked about was like rebalancing a portfolio, just like you would rebalance a stock portfolio, is that there's going to be times when you're out of balance. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but you just need to rebalance from time to time, just like a stock portfolio, right? Where I generally, in my equity account, I keep that allocation between 35% bonds, 35% equities, and 30% in cash. So, and I'm putting in more and more cash as time goes on, right? So as that cash, let's say I'm putting more and more cash, and because let's say that equities and stocks haven't really done much, but I'm putting in more and more cash, well, that's going to take the allocations and it's going to make them wonky, right? I might get to a 35% allocation in cash, and my equities are down to 30. So that means I just need to reallocate. I need to put more cash into my equities, right? Bring that back up to 35%. That would bring my cash back down to 30%. And now I'm back in balance. It's the same thing, right? Or similarly, bonds or whatever. Or I might get a big run up in equities, and now I need to rebalance. I might need to move some of that, sell some of those off and take some of those profits and then move some over into bonds, or I might need to put more cash in, right? But whatever, it's going to involve and revolve around the rebalancing of the portfolio based on a percentage. Well, it's the same thing with what she suggested in life, is that there's going to be times where my family needs me more. So I need to rebalance and take something away from something else where I'm out of balance. Maybe I'm out of balance in work, or maybe I'm out of balance in my faith, or I'm out of balance in my health, right? And I need to move these things around a little bit. So I really like that approach because we're always going to be out of balance a little in some way. And like you're never going to have, like in my stock portfolio, I'm never going to have a perfect balance of 30, 35, and 35. It's never going to happen just from one day. From in 10 minutes, I'm going to be out of balance, right? Just because of the nature of how things move and shift and evolve. It's the same thing in life. So I really like this allocation, and especially in these three different approaches of mind, body, and soul. So I'm just going to ask you a couple different questions. I'm not going to go through all this, otherwise this would be like a 2-hour video. But just a couple of questions that I want you to consider. And there's several different sections within mind. Again, there's a lot in here. So there's 4 sections just in mind alone. But here's just a couple of questions, and I'll just pick 1 or 2 questions from each one of those 4 sections in mind. So, for example, in section 1, the first one is name the people in your life who most excite you. Name the people in your life who most excite you. Another would be name the people in your life you most like spending time with. Name the people in your life you most like spending time with. Okay. And here's one other one is name the people you have the biggest impact on. Name the people in your life you have the biggest impact on. And the reason for that is, right, it starts to make you think about the relationships that are important in your life. Let's go to section 2. Section 2 would be list activities you've always wanted to try. List activities you've always wanted to try. Let me skip down a little bit. Here's one. What experiences would identify your ideal daily life? What experiences would you like to identify for your ideal daily life? And then here's another one. I really like this one because it is important. Is it's not always about relationships. It's not always about experiences. Sometimes you just want some cool stuff, right? That's fine. I've got lots of books. Me having a library was part of a personal vision for me. And I don't know exactly how many books I've got. Maybe I should count them sometime, but probably over 500 if I had to guess. No, I have not read them all. I've probably read about maybe, I don't even know, maybe 30% of them at this point, 30, 40%. I won't think it's probably not as high as 40. I'd say maybe 30%. But are there physical things in your life that would make you feel important? Are there physical things in your life that would make you feel important? So that might be something related to, maybe a motorcycle, or something, or a boat, right? Maybe that's just something that you would love to have. Or maybe it's a big house so you can entertain folks, right? That's important to some folks. So let's go to section 3. And this is under the mind section. This is related to relaxation and rest. Okay, this is the first question on this section. This is what I like here. How much rest would you need each day to feel rested? How much rest would you need each day to feel rested? I think that's a good question. Let's go to section 4. And here's another one. This is related to your mental health. Is if you had a day, weekend, or week off, what activities would leave you feeling recharged? What activities would leave you feeling recharged? So that's all under the mind section. Your mind, your mental health, your rest, right? It's all stuff related to that. Let's go to the body. The body, what physical, and then again, there's, let's see here. There's 5 sections there. Is there a place you'd like to go to enjoy activities such as hiking, biking, or kayaking, right? So like, where would you like to go to just be active? Could be shopping, walking around the mall, things like that. What place would you like to go to enjoy activities such as hiking, biking, kayaking, things like that? Let's see, section 2. What state of health would you like to have? So basically, you're kind of claiming what your physical state would be. That was section what? Sorry, I'm trying to losing track here. I don't have my glasses on, so this is kind of hard. Oh, here we go. Section 3. So this was related to wellness. Here's a good one. I like this. I like this question. I like it for me. So you may not, if you're a person that doesn't like to be touched, maybe tricky, but how often would you get a massage or go to a chiropractor? I like that kind of medical care. And I will tell you that when I do view that as medical care for me. Like when I go to and get a massage fairly frequently, or go to a chiropractor frequently, I feel good. Like I feel good. My health is good, and I'm in my 50s, and I know that I look young, and I know I look pretty good for my age. But I think it's just because I've always taken care of myself that way. I've had moderate workouts. I've always been active that way. I've eaten reasonably well. Yeah, sure. I drink soda and stuff like that. But I also eat pretty healthy, like berries and things like that. I call that the bear diet, BEAR. Like I eat lots of fish, nuts, berries, things like that. I eat like a bear. Section 4, what food related activities would you have? So ironically enough, I talk about food, but what kind of food related activities would you want? Do you like to cook? Would you like to eat out all the time? What would that look like in your personal vision? And then section 5 was the last one here in body is how, again, it kind of goes back to sleep, but how much sleep would you get each night? What activities would you adopt to ensure quality sleep each night? And then let's look at spirit. This is the last of the 3 sections. And I think there's 66 or 67 questions in total. that I came up with over the years. And I add every now and again, there'll be a good question that someone will ask me. And I'm like, ooh, that'd be a really good question for the personal vision. So this has kind of been a living, breathing document over the years. But section or in the spirit section, there are, let's see here, there's 3 sections in this one, but just a couple of questions from there. Would you seek fellowship activities with others? Obviously, and what would those be? Would you seek to teach and lead others? If so, how? And that could be the PTA, that could be an elected office in your town, something along those lines. Section 2, would you like to have a stronger faith? Would you seek a deeper relationship with God? And if so, what would that look like? I think that's a really important question. Obviously, based on what I said earlier, faith is important to me. And then the last question, well, I'll do these last 2. What activities would you do that make you feel good in terms of recharging? And think bucket list. Write the things you'd like to do before you die. Maybe the trip of a lifetime, an experience, or something you really wanted to do. So these are all related. And again, I just hit a few from each of the sections, but this is in chapter 6, starting on page 55 in the Time Wealthy Advantage. If you live in the United States, by the way, and you'd like to get a copy of the Time Wealthy Advantage, and I also include a 30-minute session with me on a Zoom call, go to strategicboardroom.com. In fact, I'll go ahead and put that in the comments section here, but it's literally right on the front page. And you can go to strategicboardroom.com. It's right on the front page, and you can buy a book right there, right from the front. And so that's in there in the very front page. So I just put that in the comments section, but I'll also put that here. Oops, hang on one second here. Is strategicboardroom.com. It's literally right on the front page. You cannot miss it. It's like the first button that you can buy something. So you can go to strategicboardroom.com, and I can sign it and send it to you if you're in the United States. If you're outside the United States, because I see a fair number of people from the UK and in Europe and India that also follow me on YouTube, and whenever I host something on Eventbrite, probably the best way for you guys to get that book is to go through Amazon. You can go to Amazon. It's not hard to find. Just you can search for it by my name, and it won't be hard for you to get it that way. That's probably going to be the fastest way, just because I don't do international shipping, just because the rates are so varied and so different. It would just be hard for me to price that. So just go on Amazon.com and do it that way. So anyway, what I would suggest is take the time and go through the book, or if nothing else, just answer these questions and really just start thinking of things that you might look forward to, or the people that you want in your life. One other thing is, if you are in a relationship with someone, if you are in a committed relationship with someone, or let's say that you've got a relationship with children, what do you want that relationship to look like? What do you want? What's your vision for that relationship? And write that down. Take that time to write that out. One of the things I will tell you, that when my bride and I for a pretty significant period of time in our marriage, we were really, really struggling. And I will tell you that I had a vision for what I wanted our marriage to look like. And I shared that with my bride. And when I shared it with Jen, she was, like we had a vision for what we wanted that to look like. And we really shared that with one another. And now we had something to work towards. And because my bride and I shared a similar set of core values, it really does matter. Like, if you don't share the same core values with someone, trying to share a vision or trying to enroll someone else in a vision is really going to be difficult. This is why in your business, when I talk about your core values and your shared core values, you have to have a shared set of core values to enroll someone into the future vision of your company. Otherwise, it's not going to work. If you don't align with your values, they're not going to align with any vision that you come up with. So that's important to take that time to identify those core values up front and make sure that your core values do align. Like, one of the things that when we had Lily later on in life, our daughter, and me being 50 years old and having a daughter, a newborn, that was, people were like, oh, she was a whoops baby, right? No, she was not. She was very, very much planned. Like, my bride at that point in time, she was in her late 30s. I was in my late 40s, and it was very intentional for us to have another child. And we definitely could not have done that had our core values not been aligned. And we were really aligned in our core values. That's why we were able to have a vision for what we wanted our marriage to look like. And that's also really important as an entrepreneur and as a business owner. Your core values for your business are an extension of your personal core values. So you're not going to create a set of core values around your business that's not in alignment. And if you do, you're going to hate the business. You're going to resent the business. So why not just extend and define those core values that are an extension of your personal core values? And you might be thinking, well, how do I define my core values? Well, when you just start thinking and defining your personal core values, the reason why that's so important to define those core values is because your personal core values are the things, like their core values. Like we have lots of values. Like you might value a cold beer, right? But are you going to value a cold beer more than a value of spending time with your kids? Some of you might, right? Because you got a problem with alcohol. Let's call it what it is, right? But if you don't, I'm not going to, I enjoy a cold beer once in a very great while. I don't even know that I drank this year, come to think of it. Not because I'm against alcohol. I just don't. The recovery time at 53 is significantly longer than it was when I was 23. So that kind of sucks. But, but the thing is that I'm not going to value, I use the analogy of, do I value peanut M&Ms? Yeah, I value peanut M&Ms, but it's not a core value of mine. Someone breaks into my house and wants to steal my peanut M&Ms. Dude, take my peanut M&Ms. But you come in my house and try to steal my wife or steal my daughter or steal my son. Yeah, it's going to be ugly for you. Like, it's going to be bad in lots of ways for you. So I'm just saying, like, when you know something is a core value is when you're willing to act, when you're willing to get up and get off the couch and go do something because it means that much to you. So that's why I'm saying, like, that's how you know it's a core value, is because you're willing to act on it. So this is where that translates and transfers over to your business core values. And that should be well defined in the way that I define those. And I will say this, Netflix, they have a set of core values which is really dialed in. Like, I was really shocked at how well their core values are developed, because they've got a definition. They don't just put a word up there. They say, hey, here's the word, and this is what that word means to us. It's like a paragraph, like a sentence or two that defines what that means. And it's a really well developed set of core values. And they're like, okay, this is who we are, and this is what we're going to live by. And I was shocked to learn that they don't really keep track of people's hours, and they really don't really keep track of people's vacation. Like, how in the world do you do that being as big as you are at Netflix? Is because they're so results focused. They're like, look, you need to take vacation, go take vacation. But you're probably, just as long as your stuff's getting done, communicate with who you need to communicate with. But as long as your stuff's getting done, we don't care. Just get it done. And they recognize that, hey, we are not a family here. We are not. Not that you can't be friendly, not that you can't extend loving kindness to other people, but families are about unconditional love. We're not about unconditional love. We're more like a team. And if your team member is not pulling their weight, or they're not capable of doing the job that they're contracted to do, that they're expected to do, we're going to replace you with someone else on the team. That's what winning teams do. And that's why Netflix is doing so well, right? Like it or not. I don't know that I could survive or do well in an environment like that. Maybe I could, right? I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm too entrepreneurial. Maybe I would do well, but I work hard and I like working hard and know that I'm rowing for a specific goal. So maybe I could do well in that environment, but I don't know. I'm too entrepreneurial. I probably couldn't, work in that structure, but who knows? Maybe I could. And for some of you, that maybe you could work in that environment or work well in that environment. But I will tell you this, the people who I employ now and the people that work for me now, I don't keep track of what they do, but they get all their stuff done. Let me say it this way. I don't keep track of their hours. I just say, make sure you get your stuff done. And if the stuff isn't getting done, we're going to have a conversation. and I have metrics and track the things to make sure that things are getting done. They know their job and they do it well. So this is really interesting around that. And I went kind of on a tangent there, but that's also related to business vision, because the personal vision is the main circuit breaker. The business vision, if you guys have followed me at all, it does follow those 3 C's of business vision: core purpose, core values, client avatar. Outside the scope of what we're going to talk about today, in fact, it's getting a little long here, so I'm going to put the fries in the bag, as I like to say. But for those of you who are interested in being part of the community that I have, go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and put this up here as as I'll put the URL up, but I'll also put that up as a, there we go. Sorry, I should have had that ready. But it's a little bit long, a little bit lengthy, the school.com. It's a school community. But if you'd like to join me there, you're more than welcome to join me. I'll go ahead and put that up again in the comments section. But you can just click on that link and it will take you straight to the community. There's a free community in there. You can ask questions and be part of it. But to be part of the online calls and everything else there, that does have an investment there. And like I said earlier, if you want to try it out, and you're in there for 90 days, and if you don't feel like it was worth every nickel, I will give you every penny back. So that is my commitment to you. All right, everybody, that is all that I have. Thank you so much for sticking around, and get to work. You've got some work to do. You got some 2026 goals to put together. Start by coming up with your 2025 goals, and then really start leaning in on that personal vision to really have the best year coming up, and finish the last half of this decade. Oh my gosh, you kidding me? The last half of the decade, to finish the last half of this decade strong. All right, guys, we'll see you again next time. Take good care.